Nandi, CS Sriram, Karan Kapoor, and Ashish Anand and Prashant sir, right? So thank you so much. We were able to do this, and it wouldn't be possible without you. We've made a contribution on behalf of BMSIT&M and Design Shots. So this is just what we got from BMSIT. The amount that we collected by selling all the passes are still remaining and will still again go to charity after this conference is wrapped up, right? So again, guys, I just wanted to make sure that I level off things, saying that we aren't really the biggest names in the industry. Our speakers are, but this conference is not, right? So treat it as your conference, treat it as your own. There might be issues in this conference. There might be people who will unmute. There might be technical difficulties. Please bear with us. Treat this as your own, and you will. I'm assuring you this, that you'll have a great time today and tomorrow with this conference, and you'll get to learn a lot. Some tips that I would give youngsters would be, grab a pen and paper, get all your snacks, and have a good time. I'll probably pass it to our anchor for today, Gyaneshwar. Are you there, buddy?
Yes, I am.
Yep. Awesome. So just take it from here. And again, everyone, thank you so much for joining and welcome.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for that introduction, Zishan. Really happy to be the host for today, and I'll basically be moderating our talks for the day. So just a little bit of expectations, setting a little bit of expectations, or giving a brief of what we are going to be doing. So there's going to be 4 design talks by our esteemed speakers, and it's going to be 30 minutes each. I will you can drop all your questions in the chat, and we will select a few questions for the speakers to answer. Of course, if we have time, we can take more questions, but it depends on the time. And we'll break for 15 minutes from 5:30 to 5:45. And we have a 1-hour panel discussions scheduled with our design leaders. And yeah, it's going to be great. So a little bit about me before I start off with the conference is that my name is Gyaneshwar, right? And I'm going to be the host for the day. So a little bit about me. I'm an associate senior user experience designer in Cerner. I know it's a mouthful, but yeah, I have previous experience working with startup incubators and startups in mentoring them with design thinking and product design and everything. So I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really happy to be in good company and in company of great design leaders and everything. With that said, now on to our first speaker, Sudhindra. So a little bit about himself before he can carry on. Sudhindra is the first speaker of Design Shots, and he's currently a design leader at TCS. He's an award-winning designer and a mentor with over 17 years of experience working with emotional design and building holistic design experiences. I'm so happy that Sudhindra is joining us. Thank you so much. And now over to you, Sudhindra. Take it away.
Hey, thank you so much, Ganeshwar. It's really kind of you to um, introduce me. So yeah, I moved to TCS recently. I used to be with IBM. So a lot of people, that I interact with. I've not yet updated my LinkedIn, but I am actually now in TCS. So I'm in Melbourne now. I moved to Melbourne. It's 9:30 p.m. 9:45 to be precise. So I have a glass with me. I'll say cheers to all of you. But this glass doesn't have wine or anything. It's just water. There's a bit of issue with my throat today, so I'm just having some warm water. So I'll still be sane and all that. So no, don't worry. Okay, great to be here. As Zishan said earlier, I mean, one of the most. So I've done several, presentations and speaking and so on, several of them, and probably this is the most fulfilling, along with a couple of others, because it is for a cause. And it feels so good to actually be named as one of those people on behalf of whom there is a cataract surgery is being performed. Although I've not done anything in that, it is all It is all the sponsoring college and the team at Design Charts who have actually worked hard. But just by being here today, I'm so glad that I've enabled something there for someone which is going to be life-changing for that person. So if you know, a few years ago, maybe about 30 years ago, cataract used to be the single biggest problem in old age for people. So today it's become much more simpler, but there was a time when it was a dreaded disease. So so glad that some people are going to be having a life-changing moment with this particular thing. So it feels fulfilling, and for that and for just having me over, I want to thank the Design Shorts team. Congratulations on your second edition, and I wish you all the very best. So let me share my screen and share a few thoughts around leadership by design. So if you can please enable screen sharing. It's not enabled. If you can just help with that, that'll be great. While that happens, I want to just give you a brief on what I'm talking about. Generally, in all my talks, what I do is I kind of come up with some loose principles, if I may, right? It's like a loose framework that we can use, and then I leave it to the audiences to connect the dots and then take it away. Generally, I tend to share a lot of examples and so on. So you kind of connect the dots, and it'll and apply it in your own setting and your own context. In today's session, I'm talking about cultures, especially design-led cultures. I mean, design has become so important today that it is an imperative in organizations. It's not enough to have a few designers and then say, okay, now we are all set. No. Is your organization design-led? Is the culture in your organization actually supporting design ways of working? That is what is going to be the differentiator. So for that, there are a bunch of things. If you're a leader, you can apply some of these principles right away. And if you're a practitioner, you can take them away, speak to your leaders in your organizations, or in your own place, you can start applying some of these principles, and you can see the difference that comes along with it. So I can see that screen sharing has been.
I'm so sorry, Seo. Just give us a second. Yeah, good.
Yeah. Can you see the screen?
Yep. Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah. So as I was introduced, I work for TCS. I've been in the industry for about a couple of decades now. I generally use design for strategic purposes. I used to be a UX designer long ago, but then I moved on to leadership roles, and now use design to create impact. At the end of the day, why do we all design? It's not for the sake of designing something beautiful, but actually for the sake of changing systems, changing societies, changing businesses, to actually create an impact. That is the real role of design. And that means that design should become like language. In any, like the way we use English, we don't use language like English for the sake of using it, for the sake of showing how beautifully we can speak English. We use English to communicate, to actually create an impact, to do a job, to get our thing done. So that is the role of it, of language. And similarly, when the role of design becomes like the role of language, that's when things are actually going to change. So why is it important today to become, to have this language across the organization, when everybody, is sharing the same kind of thinking? Why is it important today rather than ever before? Is because of some of the mega trends that are going on. Now, first of all, there is a changing demographics, especially in the Asia Pacific region. You can see that 1 in 4 people in APAC's developing countries, they are experiencing poverty in multiple dimensions. There is a rising economic inequality. In fact, India is one of the worst culprits in terms of economic inequality. Changing demographics as well, right? So 67% of the population is coming off, is of the working age. Deteriorating sustainability as well. So water demand in India by 2030 will be twice as much as the available supply. So just imagine what's going to happen in 2030. So sustainability is kind of questionable. Exponential advancements of technology. You name it today, and any kind of product, any kind of discussion, any kind of transformation conversation, if you have, we are going to talk about AI. So everything that can be digitized is going to be digitized. So there is an exponential adoption and advancement in technology. And therefore, and finally, there is an evolving futures as well, automation and so on. That's all coming in, and values alignment. Today, people are looking for brands, so customers are looking at brands that mirror their values. If this TV brand has the same value as mine, for example, I care about environment. If this TV brand cares about environment, then I'm going to buy the TV from that company. Otherwise, I'm not going to buy TV from that company. So it's as you know, it's that's the thing that's going on, and that is why we need to have a different way of working, different kind of outlook. I mean, broadly, I'm calling these as the digital organizations, the digital-led organizations, because that's where everybody is going today. But let's call that, the digital organization. I'm talking in the lens of transformation through digital, an organization that is transforming through digital. That's where my lens is in my talk today. The other reason is also because companies that were on top don't remain on top for too long. So if you are on the S&P 500 index, if you were in it 60 years ago, 50 years ago, you would stay there for about 60 years. But today it has come down to 20 years. It's only going down, as you can see from the graph. The average lifespan is actually going down, which means that the companies, what they have been doing before does not work anymore. They need to keep reinventing. That's the only mantra of success. Whether you're a company or an individual, if you don't reinvent, you're not going to be in the equation. You're not going to be in too much of a conversation and relevance. So it's important for all of us to be reinventing. And that's the other reason why this kind of new ways of working and design-led culture is so important. So what does it take for us to get there then? So if these are the things that we need to do, what does it take? What it takes is, as is discussed in this book called Leading Digital, make sure that the customer experience is at the heart of your organization, not a function of one customer service person, or there is a chief customer officer and so on. Not just that, make sure that it is right at the heart of your organization. Design your customer experience from the outside in, increase customer engagement through new digital channels. Every day there are new channels that are coming up. Are you there in all of these channels? Do you have a say? Are you speaking to them in the channels that customers prefer? Data and analytics as well. Is that something that you drive your decisions in the organization? Is it the lifeblood of your reinvention? And then how do you mesh digital and physical experiences? So because of COVID, we saw that a lot of organizations had to go remote, and now they're all coming back again. So people who are used to digital ways of working just cannot go back and do the physical ways of working anymore, right? So there has to be a mesh, there has to be a blending of that. So how do you do that? So recently, not recently, a few years ago, I worked with a large furniture maker, and the whole concept with which we worked is we had an e-commerce channel for them, and the whole store that they have created now, which is in Bangalore, in Indiranagar, it's an experience store. It's not a store where you can just go and look at furniture and buy, but basically you just experience furniture. It's a beautiful mesh of digital and the physical there. And most importantly, if you are going to be relevant, you've got to be innovating. If you keep on doing it, it's continuous. It's not about doing it once. So this is what is needed to be successful, or the winning mantra, if I may, for today's organization. Now comes the question, how do we do it then, right? So we know the why. The why is for all the big trends that are going on. We know the what, how does it look like? We kind of know that, but how do we do it? Right? So the most important guideline for me is this quote by Peter Drucker, who says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. That's a very famous quote. He's a management guru. And then the thing that he says is that you can have all the strategies you want, you can have all the plans of action, but what essentially is required is, do you have a culture in your organization that supports this kind of transformation, this kind of reinvention that you're going through? And that is the most important thing for anyone. So culture eats strategy for breakfast. And David Rogers of HBR, David Rogers also speaks about that as well. The only hope for legacy firms. So he's specifically talking about legacy firms, but you can also look at startups. You can also look at new organizations today. But the quote sort of makes sense there. The only hope for legacy firms is to adopt new ways of working that are iterative, agile, and adapt to customer needs. If you don't do that, and if you're not constantly learning, you're going to be out of the race very soon. And in this case, much sooner than ever before, because as we saw in the S&P index, you are not going to be there in reckoning and in relevance for too long. So you've got to do it today and continuously. Now let's look at how do we create this winning culture, right? So these are all very important. And how do we create the winning culture then? So we know the importance of culture in organization. So how do we create it? As I said earlier on, before I started, there is a kind of a framework that you can see this as. You can see these as principles, but essentially there are three aspects to a winning culture. There are more, but all of them, you can say is around these. The first one is communication. Are you communicating well? Are you communicating enough? Are you communicating transparently? We'll look at that in a bit. The second thing is about courage as well. Do the leaders in the organizations have the courage to take decisions in a different way? Do they have the courage to empower employees much more than they've ever done before? So those are some of the things we will see in the courage aspect. And finally, all of these make sense only if it's continuous. How do you measure it as well? So we'll end the talk by also looking at what kind of measurements also we can do, but it has to be continuous. So with that, let's look at the first aspect of the winning culture, which is communication. So communication is super important, as is demonstrated by this beautiful example that I read somewhere. In the Trondheim airport, there was this Norwegian pilot who was just landing the plane. And when he was landing the plane, he was very happy and thrilled. And he wanted to say that we're almost there. Instead, he said, we almost made it. Now, if you're a passenger in the airplane, think about what will go through your mind if the pilot says we almost made it, right? It means that you're hanging by a thread, right? So that's the power of communication. Just it's so much similar to what he wanted to say. He wanted to say we are almost there. That's all he wanted to say. But by saying we almost made it, he completely turned the meaning around. So communication, the point I'm trying to say here is it's so important to communicate the right way, and it can be misunderstood quite badly. And look at this example, right? So in communication, one of the biggest examples you keep on getting all the time is your glass half full or half empty? I mean, I'm so tired of hearing that all the time, right? So in communication, these examples are given to you. Is it half full or half empty? Now, what exactly is the right answer? You have all these philosophical discussions that goes on around it. And these WhatsApp University has several forwards around these things. But really, if you use the lens of right communication, especially the design lens, You will not say whether it's half full or half empty. What you will actually see is what's going on there in the first place, what's going on before, and what's going to go happen after. If you are able to see that, then you can actually see whether it's half full or half empty. Let's say there are two people, two friends drinking. First one is filling up his glass. So his glass is half full. The other person is in the process of draining, is in the process of emptying his glass. Then that is half empty. It's as simple as that. So it's about the process and where you are in that particular process that determines whether it is called half full or half empty. It's not about being philosophical and all these different stories around it, but basically it's about being dynamically looking at what's going on. It's about knowing what's happening before and after and so on. So that's what it is. So that's the point of communication too. It's about being real. It's about knowing the holistic picture that is out there. So that's the importance or the ways to say how you can communicate. So it's and the reason it's important is because we spoke about digital transformation, etc. earlier on. 61% of the people actually believe that digital will become critical to their business, and they believe that it is so important to them. But only 37% of the leaders actually have it on their agenda of in their executive agenda. So communicating it in all places, especially starting with the executive agenda, is super important. And then creating awareness as well to the core team, as well as the core set of leaders, is super important to creating awareness that helps unite under a common purpose, and also sets people on the right foot. So that's why it's important. Communicating a change story. As per research, if you communicate a change story and talk about why the organization is doing this, why is it changing, where is it going, why is it important, and so on, if that is done, it is 3 times more likely to succeed. So that's what you want. And the other aspects of communication are these, right? So make visible changes to work practices. Can you do that? Make visible changes, not just changes, but visible changes. And then do your senior leaders actively promote a vision of the future? If you are a leader, are you promoting a vision of the future all the time? Not just failures, not just revenues, but are you always discussing a vision of the future? Are you always also talking about and making sure that the other leaders have a common vision? The people that work with you share the vision. And finally, the employees that are in the organization, do they understand the benefits of change? So these are all the aspects that go for a great aspect of communication. Then how do you know if an organization or a team is truly aligned? Is when the members of the senior team, like all of you, your seniors, your bosses, your leaders, as well as the other peers, do you all believe and have the same sense of urgency? Do you all understand the strategic assets that will help you make that particular change? And then can you all articulate what is the future going to be? So do you understand the sense of urgency? Do you know what are your resources and assets towards the change? And finally, can you articulate a vision of the future, which is exactly like your colleague or a peer might be able to articulate, which is exactly how the CEO would articulate? Can you all do that? When everybody does that, that's when the organization is truly aligned. And that's the purpose of communication as well. The point about is courage. Courage, especially courage, is so courage goes in 2 ways, right? One is the leaders having the courage to implement systems that are very different, that are proven successful, but are offbeat, which are different from how we've been doing things. That's one. from the leader's perspective and from the employee's perspective as well. The courage to actually spot opportunities and then being able to address them. So that courage is also important, being able to self-manage. A lot of people, a lot of practitioners, employees, they don't go and take up self-management even if they're given, because they're afraid of being accountable for it. So courage goes both ways, and that's very important too. Everybody in the organization has the responsibility for sensing opportunities and actually doing something with it, being able to address it. But when you do that, you also have to be accountable. You've got to be holding each other accountable. It's not about a manager or a leader or some boss holding people accountable, but are you holding each other accountable in a team, for example? That's very important. The self-management, decision making as well. So that's the other aspect of courage. Can anybody in the organization make a decision? Well, especially startups that are there today, I want to ask that question. Can you, in the startup, make a decision wherever you are, whichever part of the organization, whichever hierarchical position that you are in? Can you make a decision of something? Can you make a decision that impacts the organization? If you can make the decision, that means you're an organization that is already in the process of that particular change. Now, there is this example of this automobile company in which you can see this playing out. Here, this person, this employee here, you can see here, he has decided to buy a machine. So it's his decision. It's not about the CEO, but it is his decision. So what does he do? He first draws up the specs and goes to the engineer who works in R&D, and then to find out if future products have any kind of requirements and so on. So he just goes and consults another employee called Pete. Then he also sits down with the finance person called Jayla to just see if he is doing the right thing in terms of his calculations. Is his projection correct or not? So Jayla and Janet, they share their expertise with him. They're not making the decision. The decision is still his, but they're just giving him advice, whether what are the consequences of that. They're just giving them that point. And then he also consults with a lot of other people who are going to use that machine and take their advice as well. So after all of that is done, the decision is still with this person, just about any employee, in that organization. So it is his decision to make that call, that he wants to buy it or not. If he buys it, he's accountable for it. If he does not buy, he's accountable for it as well. The point here is the process is, and the conditions are laid out for him, rather than spoon feeding him and saying, hey, do this or do that. So that's the courage that is needed in organizations to actually enable employees. The other thing is about values, right? So Zappos, which is very well known for their culture and values, what they have done is they have this kind of a offer, right? So if they're new hires, I mean, they spend a lot of time on hiring, actually. They spend quite a bit of time to see their fitment. And after all that, if the new hire wants to leave within the first 4 weeks, they will pay them a $3,000 check. Why? Why would anybody want to pay people who are leaving? And that's where the values comes in. It's because the idea is it's better to leave early rather than staying on and not being happy, and both ways, right? Even for the company as well as for that particular person. Now, what this has done is this also shows the courage that they have and the pride that they have on their own culture, that people that are leaving is generally around 1 or 2%, and that's it, and that keeps on reducing all the time. So In fact, so much so that when they started this whole initiative, they started with $100. If you're going to leave in the first 4 weeks, you're going to be paid $100. And then it came down. The percentage of people leaving came down. Then they raised it to 200. Then they kept on raising it for today's current thing of $3,000 to actually show that even if the price is big, will people actually take that call or not? That takes courage from an organization. And the other example I have is that of Super Quinn Supermarket and their CEO. His name is Fergal Quinn. What he does is every single, I mean, he's no more, unfortunately, but what he used to do is when he used to be the CEO, he used to go around with 12 customers every month. He used to have a lunch roundtable with 12 customers every single month with 12 different customers. And what that did was, instead of looking at some sort of survey and some sort of stories that are being told by some managers, he used to actually directly get it from the customers. And he was a CEO of this supermarket chain every single month. And that, again, implementing that means a lot. And while he did that, he was able to actually plug out several loopholes that was there in the organization, and continuously was able to change the way things work and be the leader in his space. So all of these examples are around how we empower employees as well, right? That's the most important part of being courageous. As I said earlier on, the ability for employees to take decisions, as well as even saying, where is it that we need to now apply digitization? When employees, allowing employees to generate their own ideas, where some new initiative can actually support the business, as opposed to having one think tank which does all the thinking. I mean, it's so funny that a lot of managers and leaders who make these decisions, they don't even meet their clients. They don't meet the clients. They don't work on the ground. They are not in the battlefield. If you're in consulting, they're not in the field. People who do that are people like employees who actually go in front of the client and who work day in and day out, and they know what is needed and where a decision should be made or an initiative should be taken. So that is the empowering employees bit that is needed in terms of courage. So does your organization have the courage? You've got to kind of ask these questions, as well as can you bring that change in wherever you are? And finally, continuous is extremely important. All of these things will make sense only when it is continuous. It's not about doing it once. And as we saw earlier, if you can do it continuously, that's when things will move. Again, research supports the same idea. If there is at least one new way of working, such as continuous learning, their efforts are going to be much more successful than others. Rewarding most entrepreneurial employees, people who take risks. Today, a lot of organizations actually don't do that. They reward people for compliance and conformity, as opposed to rewarding them for taking risks. So can you reward them? Can you reward people who actually take risks, who champion change, and who always try to turn failures into successes? But also rewarding failures. By the way, what does failure mean? Failure is nothing but a step in learning. So if somebody has failed, that means he's tried. So that's the other thing as well, right? So in ongoing activities and projects, can a company look at continuously rewarding and continuously staying relevant? So staying current, from another book that it's called Why Digital Transformations Fail. So again, you can look at what are the ways in which an organization can stay current and stay relevant. So do you have a strategy to help the organization stay current? Is there a focused top management digital literacy program? Are you leveraging VCs and startups? Have you enrolled vendors, partners, and users to provide ongoing education? And have you explored creating open ecosystems to generate large numbers of innovative use cases? So all of these things, again, open ecosystems are such an important thing to enable these kind of transformation and these kind of cultures to thrive. When you have an open marketplace or open ecosystem where people can come in from different places, that is when you can learn a lot, with exchange from people. But how do you now measure all of these things, right? So now that you have probably a culture that's continuous, how do you make sense of it? Can you make sure that you're on the money all the time? You have Roi framework and metrics as well. This is from a PwC strategy and analysis. So they have shared what could be a digital ROI framework and metrics as well. So look at all these different focus areas: customers, employees, operations, safety, infrastructure, disruption, innovation, and look at all kinds of metrics that you can measure so that you continuously innovate and continuously operate a culture that makes sense. For example, NPS, net promoter scores, engagement scores, number of social media mentions, customer reviews, just-in-time inventory level, supply chain efficiency, number of privacy breaches, fraud losses, uptime, downtime, number of new customers and segments. So there are a bunch of things that you can actually look at to make sure that you're continuously relevant in your efforts to be a leader. So as I said, if you're a leader, please implement these. If you're a practitioner, if you're an employee, take away what makes sense to you and start implementing those, or at least have a conversation with your leaders to make this happen. So that's what I wanted to share with all of you today. Thank you so much, as I said, for having me over, and thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for the amazing talk, Sudhindra. That was really great to hear. So in the interest of time, if you do have any questions personally for this topic to Sudhindra, feel free to reach out to him on LinkedIn, and yeah, it'll be great. Thank you so much again, Sudhindra, for taking the time out and joining us in this conversation. It's really great to have you here.
Thank you.
With that said, let's introduce the next speaker for us. It's going to be Mayur. So Mayur is passionate about leading design teams, collaborating and working across organization, and delivering usable product that meets business goals. Not only that, Mayur is a co-founder of Rethinking UX, a community 23,000 followers on LinkedIn and more than 2,200 members on Slack. So this is a really great thing, and I'm really happy to have you with us, Mayur. Thank you so much for joining us. Now over to you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Ganeshwar. Let me share my screen. Host has disabled. You need to enable the screen sharing, please.
Are you able to share?
No, I cannot.
Just give us a minute. We'll have that resolved.
Can you try now?
Yes, I can.
All right.
Let me know if you can see my screen.
Are you able to share?
I can now. If you can.
Yep, we can see it. Yeah.
So I'll do the other preferences later. The laptop is asking for many things. Anyway, thanks a lot. Thanks, Sudhindra, for a wonderful presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed, and there were a lot of learning for me. Looking at the limited time that I have at hand, I'll start get into the meat of the entire presentation. So, hello everyone. My name is Mayur Chaudhary, and thanks a lot, Alipto, Jishan, Ganeshwar, and the entire team for hosting this event. I can imagine what all goes behind the scene to bring even a single event, right? And like you have to host event for like continuous 2 days. So when me and Alipto, both of us were like discussing, okay, what should be the topic, right? And I thought, okay, let's skip product design this time, because I'm sure like there will be many design leaders who will talk about this. And we thought we had two topics in mind. One was going back to office, and the other one was building a brand. I'm not aware of the experience level of the audience, but I'll try to make sure that I should cater to the every audience that is that is there in this everyone who is there in this audience. It will be mostly towards building brand and why it is important. This is primarily to make sure, and everything is all about pragmatic approach, what I have been doing for last few years. From my personal perspective, craft and molding your brand to become an authentic reflection of yourself will likely to be the most rewarding things that you will ever do. This presentation is an endeavor to guide you all to build authenticity, and in turn it'll also build a brand. Currently, I work for Myntra as a VP of UX design, and I lead a team of around 35 plus UX professionals. I'm also instrumental in public forums, and I am a firm believer that everyone should give back to community like this group is doing. I'm founder of Rethinking UX. We have Gyaneshwar did mention 23,000. That was the information which I gave him last week. Today we have crossed 24,000 plus followers, and we have 2,400 plus Slack members. What to expect from this event, right? So what is brand? Why brand is more than likes? Where to build one, pragmatic approach, takeaways, and recommendation, which is from my personal experience. Now, when you see the brand, it's not just the brand that a company talks about, right? Everyone has their own brand, and Sudhindra did talk about the culture, right? Even that has a spice or a flavor of brand. We will walk through the journey of why to build a brand, when to build, where, how, and the best practices. What I follow, you are free to follow anything, but what has worked for me, I would like to convey those learnings to all of you, so that right from tomorrow, you can start practicing all of those, right? Before we begin, let's start by identifying our 3 core values, right? What do you think about yourself? So once you go back after this session, do some introspection, and I call it mission statement 2. So what do you think about yourself? What do you have to offer to the world or to your audience? And last but not the least, the words that comes to mind when you think about what to offer to the audience, right? So as long as you have these 3 things, core values in mind, I think things will align as expected. Brand, right? Brand is the process of creating strong positive perception of a company or oneself, right? And when I say strong positive perception, it's not only to the external audience, it's also to the internal stakeholders. A personal brand is all about credibility, authenticity through your work, mindset, approach, and the way you collaborate and partner to different functions in your organization, and even in the external forum. I'll touch upon few pragmatic approaches which can help you build one in short span of time, because those are tested. Now, building a quality personal brand means first acknowledging that nobody knows who you are, right? What we do is we join a company, right? And we believe, and with some title or with some salary, good handsome salary, right? And we think that, okay, things are done, everyone will know who we are, and because I'm in a good company. I think that is not the case. It is just a small portion of your entire brand, right? And investing in a personal brand is the most valuable thing that you will ever do in your life. I think to everyone whom I talk to, the one-on-one, I tell them, days are gone when any of the recruiter or anyone will come to you and say, can you please give me your CV, right? I think now is the time when the recruiter reaches out to you and says, are you interested to go for an interview for an open role? And that's what building a good brand can do to your personal value, to your personal branding. And we will see how it can be done and what all things can be taken care of. Those are very low hanging fruits. The moment you adopt them, I think you will have success for sure. keep dropping your questions on the chat or open up after this session. I'll try to keep some time for the like engagement, because I don't want this event to be, or this presentation to be monologue or like one way. So I have divided this into two different like categories. One is the internal branding. When I say internal branding, it is building trust with your stakeholders, with different teams, with different functional heads, functional team members. Confidence with craft, right? When you join your any company, you need to build that trust. You have to build that confidence about the craft that you know, right? Cross-function partnership and collaboration, that also comes under internal branding, and building strong positive perception about yourself, that you are here to stay. Everyone can trust you, and if given any task, you should be able to sail through it. So that's what at a high level internal branding is all about. And like when I say internal, it's purely organizational. There is other side to it, right? There is an external branding, which is managing your digital footprint. And the digital footprint is no longer a nice to have, it is a must have. uh, Even now, when I have to look for a new designer to hire, or like someone I need to hire, I hit out to any of the social media. My preferred platform is like LinkedIn. I go and see what is his profile, how it looks like, how responsible the person is to maintaining his professional uh, profile, and does he communicate well or gives his or her point of view. So look, so that is also like, that is important when you are like building an external branding. Building a quality personal brand means first acknowledging that nobody knows what you, like who you are, right? Because I talk to many of them, and I won't name any of the brand where they work in, but they feel that okay, they have reached the epitome of their success, and like everything is fine. I think in today's world, that's not the case. You need to make sure that you put your point of view, you share back to the community, you spread your aura, right? Who you are, and like that is even more important when you are like working in the virtual world. I'm not imagining that we are going back to what we used to work 2 years back, because things have changed. We will start working in the hybrid model, maybe 1 day a week, 2 days a week, or 3 days a week, and then life will go on for I think like next 1 year. Last but not the least, I think give it back to community, irrespective of any level or any title you own. That's where I think this community, Alipto and the entire team is doing. They have given a lot of effort for last 2-3 months, and like this is a way to give back to community. Let's like look into some of the approach and how we can move ahead. But because I assume that this cohort is UX designers, I think it is also important to know who owns the UX. Things are difficult for all of us as a UX designer, because everyone in today's world is contributing to UX design, right? Everyone has their own opinion, feedback, unlike data science, machine learning, AI, where the expertise lies only with the SME. Uh, Here in UX, everyone has their own point of view. So it is even more important that we should come strong uh, as someone who knows what UX is, as someone who can build a better user experience for their organizational customers and consumer, right? Before and Everyone has a point of view on how the like UX can be improved, but in some way we as a UX designer, we are also a gatekeeper, right? So we need to make sure that we own and we are there wherever there is a involvement or interference of giving like managing the experience for the end consumer. Nonetheless, we also need to make sure that impact of the emphasis should be on the impact of design and the behavior change, not just the final product or solving just the problem, right? Because that will be solving problem in a silo. Cultural change, right? And why this slide? Because trust plays a major role in building a team and the organizational culture. Trust starts with trustworthy leadership. And in the previous presentation, Sudhindra talked about leadership, like leading it from the front, right? And like, there is a need to build that design culture. So that's what it is all about. And like these all like numbers are from some survey. I think there is a need for cultural change, especially for design, right? And all of us are like responsible for it. So make sure that anywhere you are, we need to make sure that there is a design culture in making that has to be there. And our approach should define how the design culture should be. Moving ahead, who are the stakeholders, right? When we say internal stakeholders and the external stakeholders, when we talk about internal stakeholders, all of us need to build brand for your peers, with your peers, with your people manager, the leaders, cross-functional leaders, and the customers whom we are serving, right? And if you look at the external brand building, which mostly happens via social media, Slack community, is the industry professionals, freshers, communities, recruiters, and they should look up to you for some help. That's what I would call as a brand building. Start by observing the stakeholders, who they are, what role they play in day-to-day activity, and the decision making. And that is true for both the sides. Moving ahead, the 2020 McKinsey study says that 66% of the CEOs don't know what senior designer do, right? And that is quite alarming. There has to be a solution to this. Who will create the value, right? Because and when we talk about like, company doesn't give value to like design, I think it's also the ownership is on us, that we need to make sure that the value of the UX design has to be communicated, and the value has to be quantifiable and qualitative and quantitative both, right? But I think one key piece here is the trust. And like I'll start by showing this slide where there is a trust triangle, right? And it has authenticity, empathy, logic, right? And if you work on these three pillars, I think the trust can be built in the along different functions and even like within the design teams. In today's world, most of the good companies or the matured companies, they have a design team more than 15-20 designers, right? And it is very, very important even for the leaders or anyone to build the trust, either up, top down or bottoms up. People tend to trust you when you believe that when they believe that they are interacting with real you, and that is like authenticity, right? You cannot fake anyone. And when they have faith in your judgment and the competency, that is called like logic. And when they feel that you care about them, which is empathy, right? We all talk about empathy. And there are two parts of trust building: one with the customers and the second with the internal stakeholders, right? So I think this diagram, this philosophy is very core, and like this is not a hat to wear because I'm a head of UX or someone is a senior manager or something. That doesn't define that the trust is there. It takes time to build the trust, like, but there is a way to do it, right? It is not easy, but it is doable. I think trust can't build overnight, right? Trust is consistency over time. There is no shortcut to either. And yes, trust has nothing to do with authority for sure. And this trust is true for both internal and external audience. And if you can build this, I think the half of the battle is done when you are building the branding, right? Branding is all about planning. And now we are getting into meat of the entire presentation, where it's more about execution, where it is more about how to do, right? Understand that not sharing your skills is a disservice to the world. I know that when I was coming up as a UX professional, I think I have minimal helping hand because of the and now I think like that's not the case because of the market shift like that has happened, right? If you are in a need for help, I think there are a million different hands, yeah, like you can reach up to, and like they are more than happy to help. So understand that not sharing your skill is a disservice, right? And the moment you start sharing your skills, it will be a service to the community, and then in turn you will be also building your brand. Sharing is also the best way to shine your skills, right? If I have to all the speakers who are here, though we have hosted many events and we speak on multiple forums, but every time we have to present, we have to do some prep. And while doing the prep, we also learn many things, right? So when you are sharing your content, your presentation, your ideas, right? You are also shining your skill. That's also core to building the brand. and you can be the best of the best, but if no one knows you, you are missing out on the opportunities that you meant for. And the example that I gave you, Figma, design thinking, Google Sprint, but unless you go and share it on the public forum where the recruiters, where the hiring managers, your peers can learn from them, I think you will be wasting the opportunity, and it will be just a waste. Moving ahead, where to build one, right? Branding. So you can identify any social media platforms, communities. My preferred platform is LinkedIn and Slack, and sometimes Instagram, because I'm into photography too. I avoid Twitter, but that's not the case. There are bright folks over Twitter, but I'm not a Twitter guy. But I think you can focus on one of the platform, build your brand over there, and then others which can follow anyway. Manage with calendar, right? Plan in advance. If you look at this was 10 days back, my calendar for the month of December, right? Beyond that, when I have to post, what are the events where I'm speaking, what is the event where I'm hosting. I think you need to plan it in advance and see, and don't make it too cluttered. Give some breathing gap. I think you should be fine. Work on your content strategy. You don't need to be an English honors to convey your message, right? It's all about conveying your, it's the communication of conveying your idea, right? Make sure that there should not be a typo or spelling mistakes, but as long as you are writing for the for transferring your thought process, I think you are fine. Know your audience and expand your reach month by month. Be consistent. If you are from UX, product, user experience, try to have your content in these line, and as you grow in your career, you can expand your content, because the other person should also feel that you are subject matter expert on this, and this is not only the bookish gyan. Assess what works for you, optimize your approach. It is a learning curve every day. Even now, when I am managing the community and I talk to many of the folks, I learn on daily basis. I personally believe that I'm in this industry for last 23 years, right? And for me, it has taken 23 years to reach here. But the market is so smart. The folks now are so smart. They won't have to wait 23 or 20 years to reach where I am. It will be only 10 or 11 years. So I think there is a learning curve on daily basis. Make sure that you learn, optimize, improvise, and then test your approach, right? Few of the do's. There are more than 350 million professionals on LinkedIn, right? You cannot even imagine, right, how big the platform is. Now, to stand out, you need to pay great attention to creating a profile. 55% of the profiles or 60% of the profiles on LinkedIn, they are not complete. They're actually even only 50% complete, right? In this section, you will learn how to do that well. At least it has worked for me, and that's why I have put these slides over here. But if it works for you, go and try it out. And if it works, then do share with all of us. First of all, complete your profile. First one, claim SEO friendly URL, because when anyone searches, this URL comes first, then mayurchaudhary.com, right? I have seen many of the URLs are not SEO friendly. It is not recall friendly. If I have to tell you, okay, you can go and search Mayur Chaudhary, it will be easy. But if I tell you MAY-23 something, I think make it more meaningful. Grab that link for you, and it should be SEO friendly, and it is recall worthy. The other one is pick the right photo profile. This is not your Facebook or Instagram, right? This is your professional network profile, right? Good close-up headshot is good. That is professional, and that is where the first connect happens, right? So make sure that you have a good picture. If not, everyone has a very good cameras nowadays, right? After this event or the presentation, go and take a picture, put it there. It looks better. It creates a positive impact when any other person looks at your profile, right? Get the headline right. Be simple, be precise. Look out for the job profile, JDs, what recruiters are searching for. Don't write something which is fancy because you won't appear in the search result, right? And I'll show you a few of the examples. Keep it crisp and short because no one has time to read a paragraph, right? Uh, I follow a bulleted approach where I just write what all are my achievement, a small paragraph at the top, and that has worked for me. Last but not the least, avoid UX detective, design ninja, and henceforth, because no one is going to search with UX detective or design ninja. Even if you are design ninja, hypothetically, you won't get a job, or like the person who is looking for you, he won't get a reference because you are not, your headlines are not search friendly. So make sure that it's simple, crisp, and to the point. Other things can be somewhere else, but this is quite serious, right? Take LinkedIn as a serious affair. It's not something to play around, because the entire recruitment team is sitting on LinkedIn and they are looking for the right candidate, and you or I can be one, right? So do justice to this. Optimize your experience section. Many a times, even in my team now or even in the past, right? What we do, we don't write. There are things that we have done which were good. We have achieved something in our current organization, we don't post it. I think you need to optimize your experience section. There is a way to do it. 5 recent experience should be good enough. Just go and add it over there. I think that will help everyone who is looking or who want to reach out to you for any kind of help. Keep it to 5. As you can see, there are 5, and Mintra I have joined 9 months, so I've kept it 3. I'll keep on improving on the number. Use numbers and data to emphasize your accomplishments. Don't just write paragraph, right? Many a times when I talk to everyone and I say, okay, why don't you go and write something? And whenever I talk to any of the UX designer, I make sure that to at least ask them to go and spread their aura, what they do, who they are, right? And they say, okay, we are not there yet where we can post something. And I think fear of posting and what will the audience speak is the first challenge that you have to overcome, right? You are writing not for the likes, you are writing to share what you feel about anything, right? So make sure that you do it. This was, by the way, this was my first post. I had to dig deep for this presentation. This is 6 years back, and you can imagine, you can see 1 like and there is no like. But I think if I would have stopped on that day that, okay, I won't post, I think I would not have matured as a UX professional by now, right? Every time I post something, I learn many things. Find your voice, right? Publishing post is a great way to showcase your professional knowledge. Position yourself as a thought leader in the industry, but you should also find your voice. There has to be a synchronous, a consistency when you post, right? What are you posting about? What you are posting? Because when you post, you are also building your own audience. If you want to grab attention, and more than that, if you want them to pay attention to you and your post, then you need to get creative with your copy, your design, your content authenticity, and be pragmatic. Because if someone has to read something philosophical or theoretical, they can always buy a book, right? They are coming to LinkedIn because they want to have pragmatic experience. So I think find your voice, be pragmatic, and write something which is truthful, authentic, and genuine. LinkedIn global engagement, right? So now this was shared by one of my friend. The best, basis the research, the best time to post any post on LinkedIn, not everywhere, is Tuesday and Thursday between 8 to 9 a.m. morning. I am surprised why folks share something at 10 p.m. I don't know, maybe it is like working for them, but the data says that Tuesday and Thursday are good days. Apart from other days, the conversion chances and the variability goes like many-fold up. Tuesday and Thursday between 8 to 9, if you post something, you will get better audience, more reach, which will help build your brand. Try it out from tomorrow and see how it works. Few of the slides for the closing note. We as a designer, we spend much time in thinking, right? Don't just think, it is also important to take action. The idea is not to overthink. I have at least 50 names in my back of the head now where I have asked the person to go and post something on LinkedIn, right? To build a brand, and he or she has said, I'm traveling today, I have some work today, right? And in that thinking mode, right? I'll do it tomorrow. they have missed the bus. So I think if you have something like, one of the great examples would be shared your experience of today's event tomorrow between 9 to 10, not today, though it's like weekend, but at least like 8 to 9 is a good time. So whatever you have learned from Sudhendra's presentation, my presentation, or like one more which is like yet to come, go and share it, take some action. Learning is good, right? But learning for entertainment is bad. Go and apply those. If you have learned something on LinkedIn, if you have read some book, it is good, but at least I think it is better to apply in your current organization or any passion project that you are doing, or any like initiative that you are taking. We all of us have great ideas, right? There are start new ideas. All of us, we are good at ideas, but I think it is also important to finish an idea. You should start one idea, take it to a finish line, and then start something else, or at least have two ideas, not more than that at any point of time. Improve. We UX designer, we create designs, right? I think with the philosophy of making it pixel perfect, I think we miss the bus. I think the time is also, I think the time is right where you have to, instead of improving, also publish it and see how the consumer reacts, right? Instead of being a perfectionism, make sure that something which is worthy of going out, it should go out, and then you should test and get the feedback. A little reading is always is all the therapy a person needs sometimes, right? Reading once a day keeps frustrations away. There is a lot that goes into personal life, professional life. There are frustrations. I think spend some time reading books. 2 recommendations from me: Thinker's Toy, a brilliant book. It is right there at the back. I have read it twice. And one great book, Digital Minimalism. Though building brand is important, but how to control those digital clutter. So that's a great book to read. And finally, the few takeaways. Build your personal brand. That's your future CV. Nobody is going to come back to you and say, Mayur, send me your CV, and there is a place in our org waiting for you. So build your personal brand. Be your authentic self. This authenticity will shine through and will encourage the audience to build trust in you. Speak with your own voice. Make sure the communication is like a real person, particularly on your social media platform. Nobody wants to look at a post which is fake or doesn't look real, right? Get better on time management. You only have 24 hours. God won't give you 24 hours, 1 minute. So be great at time management and help empower others. It's a circle of Zen. What goes around comes around. So if you are giving back to someone, there will be a time when someone will come back to you when you are in need. And last but not the least, consistently share content that sparks a conversation. Add real value, personality, humility, and engagement, and likes will follow accordingly. So don't follow likes, follow engagement, follow good content, and I think things will align appropriately. I think I'm on time, Gyaneshwar. I'm happy to take any questions if there is any.
Of course. Thank you so much for that great talk, Mayur. Honestly, I can relate with some issues regarding having a fear of posting on LinkedIn, because that is something I struggle with. Like, it's really a mental block for me to post things on LinkedIn, because I'm so worried what people are thinking, and I don't realize that I'm missing out on really important networking opportunities. So I totally get it. I have Suprita asking a question. She asks, when we talk about contribution as a designer, I feel ethical UX design plays an important role. In this case, how to tackle unethical business needs?
I would love what was her name?
Suprita.
Suprita. She could have asked the question, let's be more human. So Suprita, unethical need. See, there are different ways to tackle this, right? So when you say unethical need, are you talking about UX dark patches or something else? If you can clear out. Can they unmute and speak?
Yeah, Suprita, yes, she's talking about, are you talking about dark patterns and everything, right? She says yes.
Yeah. So I think, see, if you start with a design, right? Many a times I categorize the design culture in any organization into 4 different categories. One is no design. Yeah, hopefully I should like remember. There is one like no design, and there is design as philosophy, there is design as process, and there is design as innovation, right? If you are these scenario what you are talking about, that will only happen if you are working in a company which is design, which is following design as a process, because if you just accept any of the task where the ask is okay, create a design and then give it to me, then these pitfalls happen, I think. And when you start as a like design as an innovation, there's a proper documentation, and even the designer needs to evolve as a strategic designer, right? You will ask why, you will ask when. Plus it is a business call or a sales call to get what they want, right? They will ask all about dollar, right? But we as a designer need to give them a better approach which won't impact the NPS or the happiness score, but it will deliver either the same value as dollar or maybe more than that as a click conversion. So I think it is more on the approach, but I'm happy to talk more on this. If you can ping me LinkedIn on or on like Rethinking Slack, because it's a like lengthier topic, but it is again, it is a culture in making, right? Yes, it will take like more time, but and one advice to you would be, if someone is asking someone has an unfair ask, right? I think the good practice would be to document it over mail, reply over mail, and ask him or her that this is my thought process. I think it won't be good for end consumer. If you say so, I'll move ahead. And I think that has worked all the time. People have pushed back. So, but it depends to whom you are talking to. This mail you cannot write to CEO, but I think there's a way to write, right? So I think like we all have to be smart how to tackle these kind of situations. Feel free to ping me offline, and we can talk on at length.
Yes. Thank you so much for that answer. It's a really great one. And Supita, feel free to reach out to Mayur.
Sure.
If anyone else has any other questions that you think of and you want to address to Mayur, Mayur is available on LinkedIn. So feel free to reach out to him and ask him in case of any issues or any questions you have from his talk. Thank you so much for joining us, Mayur. We're really happy to have you here. Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks for your time. And it was a great evening. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Right. So on to the next thing. So I would like to thank BMSIT again for generously contributing to the cost of affordable cataract surgery for poor. And on behalf of Design Shots, we really appreciate the gesture, and it means a lot. And it feels great to be part of something and helping the poor and the needy during the times of distress. Like BMSIT, I've been told that BMSIT has also introduced a new design thinking course in their curriculum. It's really exciting, and it's a really great opportunity for new and upcoming designers to be joining in BMSIT. So with that said, I'd like to introduce Prashant from the Department of Electrical Engineering from BMSIT. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, take it away.
Is my screen visible?
Yep, we can see a screen.
Yeah. Thank you, Gyaneshwar, for that introduction. And I'm also the alumni coordinator of BMS Institute of Technology. And we are proud of people and students like Zishan. You can see that our vision has been to develop competent and engineering professionals who are working towards the betterment of society. So this is where we feel that Zishan and the likes of him have contributed. So nice to be part of this talk today, and I extend on behalf of all the trustees, I wish all of you, all the organizers and the participants of Design Shots 2021, all the best in your future endeavors also. And I'll be just giving a brief about the institute, that is BMS Institute of Technology. and we have started in the year 2021. 2002 and 3, and in 2021 we have got the autonomous status also. We are affiliated to Vishveshwaraya Technological University at Belagavi, and we have around 8 UG programs and 3 PG programs, and also we have 10 research programs. Total student strength is around 3,300 in our campus, and we have an NIRF ranking of around 150, and our 6 programs in UG as well as 1 PG program is also accredited by the National Board of Accreditation. And in India, we are the first institute under AICTE to start a B program in artificial intelligence and machine learning. So as Mr. Sudhindra was mentioning, being staying current, right? And also Mr. Mayur was mentioning about the stakeholders. So if you were to look at these 2 aspects, it suits very well for our educational setup. And over here, we have since gained the autonomy from this current academic year. We have introduced the course on design thinking. This course has been personally taken care by the principal, Dr. Mohan Babujian, and Professor T.N. Praveen Kumar of Mechanical Engineering Department. So they have taken personal interest in developing the syllabus for the design thinking. So the focus is a kind of shift from just solving some of the routine examples to identifying the problem. So identifying problem is where the entire design thinking, the course is shifting to. So this is the change that has happened. You can observe that the courses, the mathematical and scientific example courses are always there. Definitely, the students are going to study those components anywhere during their course at UG over here. But the design thinking course has been introduced specifically in the first year itself, so that the students get acquainted with the principles of design thinking, so that any application of this in their projects or keystone projects, definitely they are going to be benefited. And and one more important aspect is that the design thinking draws methods from apart from the engineering and design. It draws also methods from arts. It draws methods from say social science or humanities and the business world. So it makes a complete package in itself. So this is about design thinking. So I thank for this opportunity, and I extend a very warm invite to all the resource persons who are part of the Design Shot 2021 to be to join hands with BMSIT in extending your expertise in the field to the current students also. Thank you, Ganeshwar.
Thank you so much, Prashant. This is really great to know that BMSIT is starting a design thinking course. This is a new and very exciting opportunity for people who are joining engineering or technical fields to also get knowledge on that. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'd like to extend, happy, generous welcome again, and thank you for contributing on behalf of us for the course. So now on to the next part. We're gonna take a short 15-minute break. We'll be back again on 5:45, right? So use this time to socialize with people on the chat. Use this opportunity to network with your other fellow participants